The 10 best WWE cage matches ever. Number 10. Stone Cold Steve Austin vs Vince McMahon, St. Valentine's Day Massacre 1999. The feud between Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin was the centerpiece of WWE during the Attitude Era and helped transform the WWE into the company it is today. Just weeks before WrestleMania 15, and with the #1 contendership on the line, Austin would face off with his hated boss in a cage at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. In one of the last big bouts to take place in the big bar cage, the contest was an absolute classic. As in the case of most Vince McMahon matches, violence was used to cover up his lack of wrestling ability. Before the match even started, Vince climbed to the cage from the outside of the ring to try and escape Austin, only for Austin to climb up and send him flying off the cage to smash through the announcer's table. Austin then dragged Vince off the stretcher and spent the next 10 minutes beating him to within an inch of his life. Vince had an insurance policy in the form of the debuting Big Show, but that backfired as Show threw Austin into the cage so hard the wall came loose, allowing Austin to win. A brilliantly booked comeuppance for Vince. Number 9. Mankind vs Triple H, SummerSlam 1997. Hunter wasn't quite Triple H at this point, donning the Hunter Hearst Helmsley gimmick, but was clearly on the rise while Mankind was also clicking with the fans. This matchup was another classic encounter between the two at SummerSlam 1997. The pair tore into each other in an old school match with each giving it their all. Chyna kept interfering to help Hunter and helped deliver an unholy amount of punishment to Mankind, such as backdropping him into the cage. However, at one point the tables turned and Mankind managed to hang Hunter off the cage for a brutal attack of his own. Mankind would go on to climb the cage again, this time to the very top, showed off a Dude Love shirt, then hit a flying elbow off the top onto Hunter. This allowed him to get the win in a match that would spark 2 future legends. Number 8. Tito Santana vs Greg Valentine, July 6, 1985. Somehow ignored, this bout is a real capper to an intense rivalry. Valentine had beaten Santana for the Intercontinental title nearly a year earlier. Valentine had relied on getting himself counted out to keep the belt, so a cage match made sense. The two tore into each other, Valentine always a master in the ring while Santana was fired up brawling with him. The ending was terrific, with Santana scaling the outside of the cage as Valentine tried to exit through the door. Santana kicked the door into his face to knock Valentine back and dropped to the floor to win the belt, a fitting end to a fantastic feud. Number 7. Bruno Sammartino vs Larry Zabisco, Showdown at Shea, 1980. This was one of the first wrestling supercards, and the reason for the vast crowd was the main event. Bruno Sammartino was an established legend when student Larry Zabisco brutally turned on him. Bruno wanted revenge and got it in this bloody war. Sammartino was vicious, smashing Zabisco around the cage and pounding him to the delight of the She crowd. Zabisco did get some good offense, bloodying Bruno's arm, but Sammartino was in control. While the ending of Bruno just walking out of the cage might be anticlimactic, it was a spectacular battle for its time. Number 6. Triple H vs Stone Cold Steve Austin, No Way Out 2001. The bad blood between these two stemmed from Triple H's orchestration of Stone Cold's drive-by assault at Survivor Series 1999. Unlike the other matches on this list, the caged collision between Stone Cold and the Game was part of a bigger overall picture. The match itself was a 3 stages of hell match, with the first 4 contested under standard rules, the second under street fight rules, and the third inside of a steel cage. At almost 40 minutes from start to finish, the 3-4 bout had already gone about 30 minutes by the time the cage was lowered, making the subsequent action even more impressive. The cage portion of the bout could have been a standalone match in itself, but the preceding 30 minutes of carnage made the overall match the stuff of legends. Neither man wanted to escape, just beat the hell out of each other, and both were bloody messes with the use of various weapons as well. The ending to this epic encounter saw them knocking each other out with weapons, and Hunter limply landing on Austin for the pin. One of the best matches of either man's career thanks to its setting and story. Number 5. Matt Hardy vs Edge, Unforgiven 2005. The rivalry between these two men was heated, personal, and it blurred the lines between storyline and reality after Lita had cheated on Matt in real life with Edge. This match was the culmination of a deep personal feud over the summer of 2005. These two men beat the hell out of one another, with it truly feeling like they were trying to end each other's careers. The crowd was firmly behind Hardy, rallying him on to get a huge victory. At times this may have run a little slow, but when it got extra heated towards the end it was stellar stuff. Edge dominated at first with Matt taking brutal punishment, but Hardy hit back hard, with a wild attack that had the crowd popping majorly. Both men were busted open as the Money in the Bank briefcase was used as a weapon. Lita got into the cage to eat a twist of fate. Matt then hit a flying leg drop from the top of the steel cage to win this stunning war of two guys who truly hated each other. Number 4. Kurt Angle vs Edge, SmackDown 2002. When Kurt Angle began feuding with Edge in 2002, it was arguably the biggest turning point of Edge's career, with Angle winning the first match at Backlash and Edge winning the follow-up bout at Judgment Day, taking the Olympian's hair in the process. The feud would culminate in a huge cage match on SmackDown as the blow-off match for the rivalry, and it did not disappoint. Taking place in Canada, Edge had the home field advantage, even with Stu Hart and the other Hart family members sitting at ringside in the crowd. The combination of the bitter war, the cage match stipulation and the red hot crowd all gave this bout a big fight feel worthy of pay-per-view. The match itself had everything, from blood and violence to high risk offense and a ref bump thrown in. If that wasn't enough, as Kurt Angle went to escape the cage, Hulk Hogan made an appearance, throwing Kurt back into the cage, which brought the already boisterous crowd to a fever pitch. With high impact moves, seesaw action and a genuine unpredictability around who would walk out victorious, the bout had everything a fan could ask for. After hitting a huge top rope diving spear to pick up the win, Edge showed he belonged with the main event crowd, while Angle proved once more why he would become one of the greatest of all time. Number 3. Randy Savage vs Ted DiBiase, WWE on MSG Network, 1988. This was a brilliantly worked match which managed to use the escape the cage rule well, with Virgil doing everything he could to ensure that Savage didn't find a way out of the structure. The energy within the crowd was palpable, elevating the match even more with Savage and DiBiase going head to head in a wild brawl at times. Savage would eventually manage to fight off both men and gain victory. One unique part of this match saw a fan try to help Savage win by preventing Virgil from interfering, and whilst no one is condoning this behaviour, it only added to the atmosphere. Number 2. Kurt Angle vs Chris Benoit, Raw 2001. The level of chemistry and intensity shared by the two men was unrivaled, and saw them produce a series of classic bouts, none more jaw-dropping than their spectacular cage match on Raw in 2001. This was a fantastic showcase for Angle and Benoit. There was no title on the line, just pride, with these two technical masters going at it tooth and nail. The pair would throw each other into the cage and hit a number of suplexes. One wild moment saw Kurt Angle ready to climb out of the cage, only to stun everyone by doing a huge moonsault off the top, only for Benoit to roll out of the way. Minutes later, Benoit also climbed to the top of the cage, preparing to climb out, but upon seeing Stone Cold Steve Austin with a chair on the outside, he turned and hit a flying headbutt from the top of the cage onto Angle. As Benoit went to escape, Austin slammed the cage door on him to help Angle win. Looking back, and knowing what we know today, the moves are brutal, but is still ranked among the best cage matches ever. Number 1. Bret Hart vs Owen Hart, SummerSlam 1994. One of the bigger mistakes of WWE in 1994 was having the main event of SummerSlam be the terrible Undertaker vs Undertaker match. Had this steel cage match been last, the show would have been better regarded. Bret and Owen Hart had already put on a great battle at WrestleMania 10, but this was even better. Owen Hart's heel work had been excellent, with his brother being the perfect adversary. The story that unfolded was spectacular, and neither man held anything back. The two tore into each other, smoothly moving from technical work to brawling, with each trying to wear the other down so he could escape. The passion between them fueled the match and had the Chicago crowd going wild. After a grueling contest, Bret finally achieved victory when Owen's legs slipped through the cage while both men were perched on the outside. With Owen hung up in the cage, Bret dropped down to the floor to retain his title. However, the story didn't end there. The post-match saw Jim Neidhart return to action, jumping Bret in the aftermath. As the rest of the Hart family looked on, meanwhile, British Bulldog also made his return to the company after a 2-year absence, coming to the aid of Bret. Not only is this the highest rated steel cage match in WWE history, but it is up there with the highest ranked matches ever, receiving a full 5 stars. And it is easy to see why. Once again, Bret and Owen Hart put on a masterclass in storytelling. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling content.